Boys, girls, ladies, gentlemen. I was trying to think of other things. I couldn't do it. Welcome back to the channel, boys. I love to have you. I don't know. My words are just gone. Anyway, Legendary Commander tier list. I was getting asked a ton about this, especially a few months ago. And the fact of the matter was, I just did not know enough to comfortably make this. But now that I've just finished my KVK 6, I'm at my, like 2.5-ish billion kill points. I feel a little more comfortable doing this. This is, my take on it. Remember, this is going to be for the open field. I'm not really going to be doing anything for like Garrison or rallies because honestly, I don't care. And most of you guys, basically anybody watching this video probably should not be caring about Rally Garrison. We leave that to the bigger players. We leave those to the, what's the big guy? Seawell from 960, Redline. I'm sure those guys know all about the Rally Garrison. That's not how we do things down here in the F2P low spender, type of area. Yeah, let me give y'all my my tier list for how we get down in the open field. I'm probably just gonna go through these like real quick and then I will talk about them in a sec. Okay, so I think this is the final verdict. If I were looking for like field investments and how I would look at it, I'll explain what I was looking at and why I was looking at it in this way. So first things first is like, if you're in the D category, like you generally should not like look or touch any of these like a 10-foot pole. So this is like not for like chaining or anything. So like if we're talking about like chaining, I'm sure there's places for like Mocked and Theo and like all these commanders and like for gathering, like these are basically free. Like there are reasons why you'd use them, but we're talking about the open field, that's what we're talking about. The things that I'm going to be looking at here are going to be mostly, do I want to invest in them? How long will they be useful? Which pairings are they useful for? And is there something that has rendered them obsolete? So a really good commander is Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh is good. However, Gilgamesh has been largely rendered obsolete by Scipio because they both do a health debuff. I believe Scipio's health debuff is just more, so there's really no reason to have Gilgamesh when you can just have Scipio instead. It's also one of the reasons why Ethelfled has been devalued because Trajan Ethelfled used to just be kind of like a slap-in march, which you can still kind of do. Some people might end up running like Trajan Mulan though, and the reason why they might run Trajan Mulan is because Ethelfled's health debuff is now a lot less useful now that every single 5 March will always be running Scipio. Always until now, until the end of time. Before we start, I would like to just go ahead and give out probably like a sample 5 March. So a sample 5 March, we're probably looking at like 1 infantry march, 2 cavalry marches, 2 archer marches, right? And it could look something like, for a 5 March, we might look at like Juan Scipio, we might look at Nevsky Joan, we might look at XY William, Boudica Zhuge Liang, and maybe something like Henry YSG. Could be like Boudica Artemisia and like Nebu Zhuge Liang could also work. I think Henry Zhuge Liang and maybe Boudica YSG might be a little better, or maybe something like Boudica Zhuge Liang and like Henry Tommy Risk could be okay as well if you wanted to run 2 archer marches. If you wanted to run a 2 infantry, 2 cavalry, 1 archer, it would probably look something like Guan Sargon, Scipio Tarik, Nevsky Joan, XY William, and Boudica Zhuge Liang. And I think those would probably be like also a pretty good 5. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of running 2 infantry. I'd much rather run 2 archers, but I see why people would want it. Okay, so into this list. So if you're in D tier, no one should ever look at you at all in any way, shape, or form. There is just no reason you should be fielding these commanders. I have heard throughout the grapevine, some people have said, oh,
Heraclius is like pretty good because like him at 5.5/1/1, he has like a decent debuff and maybe like a okay buff and like you could use him.
And the fact of the matter is, guys, if you are in the open field and you have a commander like 5.5/1/1 Heraclius, you should just not be fielding it. Just field less marches. If you're broke, you're broke. It's cool. Right? When I fought my first KVK 4, I fought it with 1 march. When I fought in KVK 3, I fought it with 1 march. That's okay. I maxed out my C kills and it was perfectly fine. Just have your best marches and just guard them as best as you can. There is no reason for you to be in Season of Conquest looking at Thutmose or Julius Caesar or like Richard or Heraclius. There are very few commanders that are going to be useful either A, really, really early and continue to be useful later, or that are going to have like PvE or like Rally Garrison uses and simultaneously have other uses. There are exceptions, but rarely are they going to hugely overlap. So like anything that is explicitly Rally Garrison is doomed over here. I don't remember clicking Dido down here. I didn't see her, but just know that she'd be D tier for the open field. I wouldn't use her. Over here in the S tier, these are the slam dunks. these are going to be the cornerstone of like any account. So assuming that you come into Season of Conquest and you have invested in only one commander whose name is YSG, you're going to be running probably Scipio YSG, assuming you maxed infantry first, right? So Scipio YSG is probably your first march. Your second march is probably going to look something like, if you have Minamoto, if you're not free to play, then your first march might be something like Nevsky Mina. Your first two marches might look like something like Scipio YSG Nevsky Mina. Or if you don't have YSG, it might just be like Scipio Ethelflaed. And those are perfectly acceptable marches to open up with. The way you want to start probably every single 5 march is probably with Scipio. That 30% health debuff is crazy good. His fourth ability is incredibly strong. The ability to like give like reduction to like your nearby marches is absolutely awesome. I believe it only does it to 3 marches as well. So the earlier you have him for your first 3 marches, the better. And running Scipio Ethelflaed is completely okay. Afterwards, you can always look at putting a Joan behind the Nevsky if you do not have Minamoto, or just putting a Joan behind the Nevsky even if you do have Minamoto, because Joan is an absolutely awesome commander. Another thing you'd want to do is you want to put the ZL behind Boudica. The cool thing about ZL is at 5511, he's already a certified Hood Classic. He is a beast. You just slap him right behind her and you're good to go. You could look at something like 5551 Scipio with expertise YSG. You could look at something like 5551 Nevsky with Minamoto. You could look at 5551 Boudica with a 5511 ZL. After that, you wouldn't look at anything else on this list, and you just focus on expertising Scipio, expertising Nevsky, expertising ZL, and if Joan is like 5115, she's fine. Or like 5515 is also okay if you don't have Minamoto. But yeah, those are absolutely excellent marches, and they can be done with the guys in S tier because they're that good. So with that being said, now we're looking at potential add-ons. Guan is going to be probably the first add-on that I immediately think of. As soon as I can add Guan, I probably want to. At 3 marches, I wouldn't be adding him immediately. Running like a Scipio YSG or like a Scipio Ethelflaed is okay. But after you finish your first 3 marches, then it is time to bring the Guan on. I know a lot of people have been talking about how Guan ain't this, Guan ain't that, a lot of people talking shit on Guan, respectfully. But every single time you're going to look at one of these people's 5 marches, one of their 7 marches, they're going to be running Guan. And the thing is as all of these commanders get stronger and stronger and stronger, as we see like the next release of cavalry, whatever it is, as we see like all of these super strong marches coming out, silencing them for 3 seconds will probably never not be viable. And it's highly unlikely that they release more silences into the game because it's an extremely toxic mechanic. You generally don't want things that shut other things down. You want things that empower other things. So they generally don't want to add more stuff like that. So Guan is probably not going to be going down the wayside. If you're spending money, buying dailies on him is absolutely awesome. And if you're not, I mean, after you finish your first 3 marches, getting to 5-1, 5-5 is pretty good. I mean, he's awesome in the 3 march, he's awesome in the 5 march. Being able to protect your guys for 3 seconds is awesome. He might launch a silence as you run away. He might launch a silence as your guys launch all their abilities, and then when they launch their abilities, they're already weakened. So there's so many good things that come from Guan. It's not necessarily like anything else about him, it's just the fact that he has a silence. He is a utility march, so he's not going to bring a ton of damage, but he's going to be bringing a ton of utility. That's really, really, really important, and that's why he's at the top of A tier. Now, the second person at the top of A tier is William. William is super slept on. Actually, crazy slept on. If you're like a experienced player with billions of KP, you know William's OP, right? He's really, really strong. But for the vast majority of the player base, a lot of people are not thinking about William. When people say William, they're thinking, oh, backwards invest, right? They're not generally looking at it. The reason why William is so strong is because his first ability has an AoE skill damage removal. His first ability, there's just a tiny sentence in there, right, between like the debuff and the damage that says any commander hit with William's like active skill has now, or like his X skill has now lost their bonus skill damage, right? And we're talking about bonus skill damage, as I understand it, we're talking about YSG's 4th ability, we're talking about Insight, we're talking about damn near the entire skill tree, we're talking about wedge formation, we're talking about the combo inscription, the hunter inscription. So when we say YSG's 4th ability, we're also talking about like auxiliary skills, we're talking about bastions, we're talking about Sun Tzu's 4th, we're talking about like any single thing that could possibly give you skill damage is immediately removed by William. So the dude is probably timeless. I don't know if he's ever coming out of like the 5 March right now. The next commander to get removed out of the 5 March, assuming you're running 2 cap, is probably going to be XY. And XY is good. He's a good commander. Some people will really like him because they get good trades. Some people just find he gets the shit beaten out of him a lot. I think he's a good commander. However, he is not better than William. In the XY William pairing, William is the chase card. He is what you are bringing to the field, and he is what is putting in the work. Then we got Tarek. I really like Tarek. Sadly, he is not a good enough priority to where I need to be investing in him, but he is good. If you want to end up running 2 infantry pairings, it's not an awful idea. Running something like Guan Alex, if you had Alex from KVK2, if you're an older player, you probably have just Alex laying around, so he's like pretty good to just slot in there. And then you can run Scipio Tarek. And Scipio Tarek is an absolutely nasty march. It's like plus 80% attack, like plus like 15 to 25% damage, and has like a 3,400 damage factor on Tarek after a 30% health debuff on Scipio. It is one of the nastiest nuking marches. I don't know if there's a nuking march that actually compare like that might actually be the nastiest nuke. That with debuffs is like so obscenely disgusting, it's crazy.
Ew.
I really wanted that march, but ZL came out, and so that's where I put my chips. You know, Tarek is where he's at because he is an absolutely excellent unit, and if you wanted to run Guan Alex, Guan Sargon, and then you wanted to run Scipio Tarek, I think that's completely acceptable and pretty reasonable. The next one on here is Trajan. Personally, I'm not a huge Trajan fan. I would not run him. However, that does not mean I will not put respect on his name. Whenever I see Trajan in the open field, I am on him like flies on shit. He sometimes is not expertise because you really don't need it. He also generally has really shitty gear and is just running like kind of whatever. Because Trajan was one of those marches where people accept they're going to get bad trades on him, but he makes all the other marches hit so much harder, they kind of don't care. He has a self debuff, he's pretty slow, and oftentimes he is just not properly geared to really make him good. However, dealing 25% more damage from the rest of your 4 marches on whatever poor bastard that Trajan is hitting is really strong. I've seen people run him as weak as 5-1-1-1 with a secondary Ethelfled and him do alright. Would I do it? Hell no. Would I put respect on the name of these high power, high kill players that I see do well with him? Yes. There's my begrudging Trajan in the A tier. Fine, okay? And he's ahead of YSG, okay? So he's not S tier, okay? You guys aren't getting that out of me, but he's up there. Fine. The next one up there is YSG. YSG is absolutely amazing. I love that commander so much for so many different reasons. I think he's still a slam dunk invest in 2023. I think any competitive player should be coming to Season of Conquest with YSG. His 4th skill is so strong as an auxiliary skill, as a bastion, just as on the commander period, full stop. He just is awesome. He chains early game, late game you put him behind Scipio, late game you put him behind Boudica, late game you put him behind Henry. Pick a commander, put YSG behind him, it'll probably do alright. I've seen people run some stuff like ZL, YSG. Would I run it? Hell no. But I've seen it run, and I've seen it work. I've also seen like Nevsky YSG work as well. So I mean, like, don't let your memes be dreams. Definitely hit up the YSG, it does really well. My last KVK, I ran Scipio YSG, and I did probably like 400 mil kill points, give or take some. With that march, it did absolutely incredible. If you guys watch my account update, the last one I released probably around the same time I released this video, you'll see all the information on that. Minamoto, A tier. Honestly, Minamoto might be, should I bring him up? Because he's not that strong in the field, but he's like, Minamoto might be like, he's so cost effective. He's so good. For like 270 bucks, like I'm an F2P player, so I will never get to experience the joy of having Minamoto, but he is so cheap. You can get him so early. He will give you so much use. He's PvE, he's PvP, he works in the meta marches. Like, he just is that guy. I think for cost effectiveness, I'm actually, game time play. I'm putting Minamoto in the S tier. Yeah, he's awesome. He is that good. And if you are a player that is transitioning to Season of Conquest and you are not F2P, you should get Minamoto. Whatever anybody tells you, that dude is definitely usable and is definitely good. His Double Relic is absolutely nuts. They just threw stats on him until he worked, and by God, he does work. Minamoto is awesome. It is truly a depression smoothly that I don't have him and that I can't get him, but he's good. He's good. He does nothing but good work. And you can't really hate the player, hate the game, you know? So afterwards, we have Henry. I like Henry a lot. If you're running 2 archers, you're going to be running Henry as your second archer primary. So Boudica's going to be your first primary. Henry's probably going to be your second primary. He's just a stat stick. He does a bunch of damage. He's really tanky. He marches kind of fast. If you want to put Zhuge Liang behind him, awesome. If you want to put Timerverse behind him, also awesome. He just is a good march. There's nothing really to say about it. He doesn't do anything particularly special. Nobody ever really wants to hit Henry, and you can kind of submarine anything behind him. It'd be like running Richard YSG way back in the day. If you guys used to play the game like 3 years ago, like Richard YSG was a good march because you could submarine in YSG and all that damage would be really nice. Being able to run Henry Zhuge Liang is like a much more cracked version of that. It does a lot of damage. It's very tanky. Nobody targets it. It is the same vibe as Scipio YSG, which did me so well. The issue is it doesn't have the same longevity. By the time the next archers come through, Henry probably gets the axe. Now, if you're looking to upgrade to 6 marches, then Henry might not get the axe, right? You might run 3 archer marches, which honestly doesn't look too bad. Henry's definitely up there. I was heavily considering investing in him so I could run Boudica YSG and Henry Zhuge Liang. I just ended up not doing it. I'm probably going to focus on making another cav march instead. But last but not least is Mehmed. Mehmed is really awesome. He just is a super strong commander. If you don't have YSG for Scipio YSG and you don't want to do Scipio Ethelfled, you can just do Scipio Mehmed. His double relic is super strong. At 5.511, he's awesome. At expertise, he's awesome. He just does a lot of damage and gives a bunch of stats. He's kind of the same vibes as Minamoto. By the time you hit like KVK4, KVK5, you should have Mehmed at 5.511 for free. And for a free commander at 5.511 with double relic, he's pretty nasty. I mean, he's just a nasty comp. Like, I haven't used it personally, but I know a lot of people have found a ton of success running either like Nevsky Mehmed or running Scipio Mehmed. And it sounds a little goofy, but apparently works. Another one of the reasons why you'll see commanders like Trajan, Mehmed, Minamoto, and YSG up above is because of their usability or their cheapness. That's going to be a really big factor. So we look at commander like XY. I would rather have XY than Mehmed for very obvious reasons. He's much better. However, he costs 700 sculptures and he will probably be taken off. If you lose a march of Mehmed, like your Nevsky Mehmed, your Scipio Mehmed, or whatever Mehmed you're using, that's okay. That's not a whole big deal because you got him for free. With XY, you invested 700 sculptures into him. You know, I assume people are going to value sculptures at maybe like 700 gems a pop. That's what I would probably value it at. That'd be like damn near 500,000 gems just for a dude who's about to get benched. So is he good? Yes. He's at the top of B tier because he's so good. The issue is he's probably going to get cycled out. If you're running 6 marches, your pairings are a little funky because right now you're looking at perhaps something like Nevsky Mina, XY Joan, and then you could try to run whatever new cavalry comes out with William. And that could be like a decent 3 pair if you're trying to run 3 cav and expand it. However, chances are that with the coming meta, like XY is probably going to eventually just kind of eat shit on the bench and he's probably not really going to see the light of day too much. He's not a bad commander. I just wouldn't invest in him anymore. In fact, he's a very good commander. Again, I just wouldn't invest in him. After him is Artemisia. Boudica Artemisia is still an absolutely fantastic march. It's really good. The only issue is if you run Boudica Artemisia and like Henry Zhuge Liang, you're benching YSG. So you're investing 700 sculptures in Artemisia to have a march that does something completely different than the YSG march does. The YSG march is going to do a lot of damage. The Artemisia march is going to be very tanky. I like having a tanky march as much as the next guy. And Boudica attracts other people attacking her like flies on shit. So if you want to have that be a strength instead of a weakness, having Boudica Artemisia is absolutely awesome. You can also get Artemisia out of dailies, so her accessibility is really good. The main issue is generally people are looking to do a lot more damage than they are looking to tank. Now, if you're like a bigger whale, if you're doing like 7v7 or 6v6 or something like that, perhaps Artemisia is definitely a better option because investing in her isn't really like investing in XY because you pick her out of dailies and she's completely okay to run in the field. She is really tanky. We're in a meta right now where you want to do as much damage as fast as possible and you just want to nuke out everything you can touch. She doesn't really do that. She does decent damage, but she's mostly tanky. She's in B tier, but I think she's good. Dailies for her, MGE for her, pretty good. She's not better than XY, but she's good. Nebuchadnezzar is the next one. This guy's time has probably passed. I don't think anybody should be investing in him anymore. If you have him already, him as a primary or secondary to Zhuge Liang, maybe I've heard works. I personally have never really been on the Nebuchadnezzar train. I know as a commander, he does a ton of damage, and for some people, that's enough. For me, if I see that commander on his little chair walking around the open field, I will dive into the enemy murder ball to try and kill him just because he is that squishy. So if you want to run him, I think it's okay. If you already have him, I would not invest in him freshly. Next is Honda. Honestly, I think game time decision, Honda goes above next. Honda is a good commander. That's kind of it. He just is really solid. Almost the same conceptually as like Mehmed. They both do like largely, they fill the same role. So he just is a better Mehmed, but he's very expensive and that's kind of painful. I wouldn't want that. It's just, he's probably also going to be removed from the lineup. The same that XY is probably going to remove from lineup. XY and Honda are both on the chopping block. They're both stuff you probably just should not be investing in anymore. Again, he's not awful. Like if you already have him, you probably should be running him. But if you don't have him, you probably shouldn't invest in him. Next is going to be Sargon. Sargon is... Wow, Sargon should probably go to the A tier, shouldn't he? God, I really hate this commander. He's not bad. He's just not very good. That's as far. Okay, look, the infantry Discord I know is looking at me with bated breath.
Why was Sargon in the B tier?
Okay, look, he's okay. He's good. Okay, he's not okay. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. Okay, he's a good commander. The issue is when you are taking Sargon and you're putting him over like Alex, for example, you're not actually getting that much. Like Sargon is not that much of a huge bonus for your 5 march because Sargon's generally not getting his stacks off before whatever march you're hitting is dying, or if he's trying to get his abilities off, your opponents are just running away, and he's a slow infantry march, so he's not getting all like 3 or 5 ticks of his ability off at the same time. Sargon is great on paper. He's an absolutely awesome duelist. The issue is just the actual open field is not duels. It just isn't like that. It's not duels. It's not 1v1s. It's a lot more chaotic. There's a lot more rage dropping, especially when a target dies. Having to reset all of that is really painful for a march. In an ideal 5 march, running 2 infantry marches, or an ideal like 7 march where you do run 2 infantry and you're running like Guan, Sargon, and Scipio Tarek, he should be there. So I'll bump him up to A tier, but I wouldn't invest in him. If you already have Alex, there's no point. And it's not because he's bad. It's just like he's a minor upgrade where there are many other upgrades that should be being made. However, I will put him in the A tier because however minor an upgrade, he is in the meta marches. He might get knocked out the next time we see another infantry march, or Tarek might get knocked out the next time we see another infantry march. It really is up to like what people value. Ethelfled, smack dab in the B tier. She is good for your transition to Season of Conquest. Her double relic is really good. Behind Trajan, she's pretty good, and she's free. Would I run her in like a meta 5 march? No. Would I run her in a meta 7 march? Could. Possibly. Ethelfled's on my bench, and she's probably not moving off my bench. For somebody transitioning to Sock, she might be off your bench for a little bit behind Scipio, but that's a temporary thing. Again, in the transition, cool. Outside of the transition, probably shouldn't run her. Over here, we have a beautiful Alexander the Great. This dude should not be invested in at all anymore. If you have him, if you're an older player, the only reason why I put him in here is because I know like a lot of players already have him. If you already have him, putting him behind one and then having like Scipio with like Mehmed or Ethelfled or YSG or Tarek, like that's a completely okay thing. If you already have the expertise, Alex, fuck it, run him, it's cool. He has like decent ability, he has decent bastions, I'm sure his auxiliary skills aren't too shabby. He's just a fine commander. He's not a great commander, he's not an exceptional commander, but he's alright. And he works in a like, let's not say like completely meta 5 march, but let's say like cutting a few corners here and there, right? He's not that bad. And then we have Tommy. Tommy's fine. She's not like awful. She's not great. You know, she just is. In a meta 6 march running 3 archer marches, maybe you want to run a Tommy risk somewhere in there, but that's kind of stretching it a little bit. Over here, we have the C tier. We have probably Chandra. Chandra is in the same position as Tommy. The only reason why I have him in the C tier right now is because the new cavalry, if you're running 3 cavalry marches, Chandra's getting replaced almost 100%. If you're running 3 archer marches and you're running Tommy, you're not seeing another archer march for a very long time, so Tommy's fine. But Chandra is almost certainly on the chopping block. Now, if you're running Nevsky Joan, XY Honda, and Chandra William, those are completely awesome 3 cavalry marches. I think they're really good. I've coached a lot of clients that have had those and have done really well with them. The thing is that's probably just not going to last anymore. I like Chandra. I think he's cool. I think if you're getting like a bunch of cavalry MGEs for some reason and you can put them into Chandra, okay. I mean, like, it's not bad, but he's just not something anybody should really be looking at. Harold. I don't like this dude. He's better than Pakal for the Pakal Herald like mixed, but honestly, if I see your commanders and you're running any kind of like Herald Alex, like Herald Pakal, something like that, like Cheeseburger 24/7, like I got it, you know, Cheeseburger a little bit, more power to you. Commanders that don't do like march clearing but are just looking for Sebs are very annoying to me. Same with like Attila Takeda, because these marches are they're not nuking your opponents, and they require your opponents to kind of be dumb. Whereas like even if you let's say you cheeseburger with like a Guan Scipio or like a Boudica something or like a Nevsky something, right? You're still applying like pretty nice debuffs on whatever you're hitting, so other people can also help you clear the field. These marches just don't help you clear the field. So for that reason, I don't really like them. I know like some people liked maybe like Herald Sargon or like Herald Alex or something like that. I just think it's a really bad investment, and as a player, I don't think it's a great idea. Afterwards, we have Flavius. I know when I was talking about running 2 marches, some people are running Guan Sargon or like Guan Alex with like Scipio Tarek. You can also run Scipio Flavius. I've heard it's decent. Would not be my first choice, and it's an MGE, so there's not a huge reason to take Flavius over Tarek. But if you already have Flavius for some reason, you know, maybe your kingdom was looking for MGE guys and they were like, hey, you have to get Flavius, but here, take it. He's okay, I guess. I mean, he's C tier, so he's like mid lane, but he's not awful. Afterwards, we have Bert. I have never ever considered using Bert on the open field, literally ever. I know there are some cavalry mains that have used him and have found success with him. Looking at you, Aljazo, I guess. I don't know. He's here, I guess. I've seen him on the field. He's done all right. I've fought against him. I generally do well, but I've seen him do fine, so he's here. Attila and Takeda, they're like a cheese march, you know? They're KP farmers. People that, you know, don't really clear the field, but are waiting until like the KVK is kind of like done for and just want to like stick a march outside of their city and just want to like get hit or maybe like cheeseburger with it. They use AT. It's not worth 1400 your sculptures. If you already have it, more power to you. If I see like 100 mil kills on your Attila and 100 mil kills on your Takeda, I'm a little suspect of like your open field mechanics. I guess if you're like half asleep or like highly intoxicated and you want to like bowling ball a march into your opponent's murder ball, you can, but I wouldn't. Yeah, it's not something I would touch. Cyrus the Great. Probably not. Just not a thing anymore. He chains sometimes, I guess, but like that's it. I would invest in him. He's okay. He's functional in the field. If you're like an archer, like one trick and you only run archer marches, much in the same way that Bert or Flavius might work for like infantry or cavalry or infantry one tricks. Like if all of your marches are like that, maybe you run Cyrus, maybe you run a Minotaur, right? It's not like these are the worst commanders on the planet, but they've just been made obsolete. Mulan is in here. She should probably be higher up just because I know some people run her with Trajan. I just haven't seen that much lately, so I'll leave her kind of where she's at. She's not worth an investment. She's just kind of like free. You know, she's okay, right? But this is C tier. CJ on paper is an absolutely despicable weapon of war. The issue is this game is not played on paper. If he's in combat for an extra long amount of time, I've seen some pretty good reports with him. He is not worth the sculptures, and very often will you like try to heat up for an extended period of time and then find your opponents walking away, and you'll be sitting there sad with a orange march walking home with a negative report. John Zishka, I have seen him on the field, probably much in the same way that I've seen Bert on the field. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't suggest you do it. I wouldn't suggest anybody do that. If you're a cavalry one trick, I guess you're probably already doing it, and just know that you know, you should probably repent for your sins. Call's got the same issue as Herald, except he's somehow shittier. Herald at least has some kind of like mainstream ability with like Herald Sargon, Herald Alex. Like you might actually be able to do something with him, but Call on the other hand is truly like the cheesiest of cheese marches. If you have spent 700 sculptures in the Herald, may God rest your soul. Honestly, if you invest in Pakal, like this video, it's probably too late for you. I don't know what to do. Afterwards, we have Martel. Not great. I see him on the field sometimes. He's Afterwards, we got Ramses. If you're an archer one trick, you probably run him, but I mean, even like archer mains are running Ramses less. He's okay. He's just not that good. And then Saladin, I just don't like Saladin. If you're a cavalry one trick, you probably run him, but that's it. Anything in the D tier, let me just take a quick look. Maybe Leonidas could go before Chiok. Maybe I'm being a little too mean to Leo. And I think that's it. I think that's the only thing I would possibly like budge on past that. This is the tier list. I've explained myself quite thoroughly, I think. If you guys disagree with me in any way, you guys can always talk about it in the comments below. I always welcome some healthy disagreement. I do not know everything about the game, and honestly, I only use some of these marches. Minamoto, for example, is in the early S tier, and I don't even have him. I've coached hundreds of accounts at this point. If you guys are interested in coaching, it is... Wow, I can't... Really? Am I... Okay. It's right there. 35 bucks a session if you guys want it on stream, 50 bucks a session if you guys want it off stream. Again, I've coached an absolutely egregious amount of accounts, so I've seen what accounts with some of these commanders, especially in the A and S tier and B tier look like, and accounts that have more C tier commanders. So I have like a very, very wide pool to pull from when it looks at like vicarious experiences and like vicarious fielding. But again, if you disagree, I always welcome some healthy debate. I do not know everything, and so I welcome the absolutely intelligent Rise of Kingdoms community to correct me on anything I may have gotten wrong. If you guys like the content, hey, please drop a like, please consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell. If you guys want notifications when I go live, make sure you hit that Discord in the description below. You go to the Discord, you go to the role selections tab, you turn on announcement and stream notifications, and then every single time I go live, you'll get a notification. If you guys want to contact me, that is the best place to go. And again, if you guys want coaching, the best place to find me is by DMing me on that Discord. If you guys want to help support the stream, you guys can always donate to that Streamlabs link in the description below, where we also have stuff like merch. So check that out if you're interested. Have yourselves an absolutely wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.